Hello, my name is Teresita Blanco, the Artsy sister, and we're continuing with Saturnastra. This is chapter 8. Year 7, month 3, day 19, 7 p.m. We suppose it's a good time as any to mention the odd time schedule of Saturnastra, and an entire day is 30 hours, and 1 hour in Saturnastra has 90 minutes, and 90 seconds, and 810 nanoseconds, etc. All months have 30 days, which are evenly divided into 2 weeks, and the year has 30 months in total. And on average, each region of Saturnastra gets 5 months of spring, summer, fall, and winter. And because of the odd time scale, the humans in Saturnastra technically live longer than the humans of beyond their times. Then there are the added fertilizers and youth hormones, and this allows for the humans to live up to 150 years. In Saturnastran years, mind you, and these humans reach puberty at the age of 13 or 16, and their bodies start breaking down at the age of 65. Ironically, the average lifespan for most humans in this world is 54. They will live longer if they weren't such warmongers. Now let's get back to his story. Undine and he returned home being Iago's mansion, and the pair had taken a residence there, and at the curving junction, he would spend 5 or 6 days living among humans, and the rest of the 15 days of the week with the dragons. And for that reason, Iago converted one of the closets into a bedroom for Ahi. And there Ahi had a small pile of beds, a small simple bed and a coffer. Iago did offer to give Ahi a bigger room, however he seemed intent on sleeping in that broom closet, and sometimes Iago would come into Ahi's room and find him eating the crystals. Iago always wondered where he obtained those crystals, and he also wondered why the crystals never did him any harm. Over time, Iago became convinced that he was not human, but a dragon disguised as a human. He liked the closet for the same reason, by like mirrors and wooden reflecting ponds and shallow windows and Karina's crossroad. And whenever he wanted to wander the halls of creation, he used the closet as a waypoint. And for outsiders, he simply looked like a weird kid cowering in a dark corner, and upon closer inspection, they would see he with his eyes open, showing rapid eye movement, and via meditation, arcane spirits would travel those mysterious halls in search of knowledge. And in his case, he would visit his father to get new crystals to eat, and at other times he would travel there in the flesh. However, Saturnastra was a closed world protected by an area, and no portals to Saturnastra were currently closed off, and the only way to exit this area was in spirit form or by killing the area master wherever he may hide. Moving along. When he went home, he rushed to his little corner inside his bedroom. As for Undine, she left to Iago's study, and she found him there trying to read a medical book, and she smiled when she saw that it was a book she had written, and Iago was frowning while he read information about mushrooms. And when he saw Undine sitting before the fire, he asked, how is processed glaucoma injected into your veins a cure for dysentery? I don't know, commented Undine. It just does. I don't question the cure, I just administer it. Iago then went back to reading the book, and he stopped mid-sentence when he asked again, can you explain to me how the kinds of birds which grow nearby serve as a predictor of the kinds of illness which will befall your city-state? Undine mused a little before saying, the goddess of the earth of Tisa produces earth for your convenience, and you can use the kinds of birds that grow to predict the kinds of illnesses which will show up this year. And most of the time, the kinds of birds which grow are used to treat winter fever, and during wartime we get some serious illnesses like the bubonic plague, dengue, or yellow fever. And King Berthame created the printing press to mass-produce books which used for information like my book, and pity that only the nobles know how to read, and they hog all the interior and watch their peasants squirm. And Iago chuckled when he heard this, and he remembered how he had struggled with learning how to read at the age of 10, and he was lucky that his dead grandmother Lenore was a fallen noble, and she always took care that her entire clan knew how to read and write. And when she finished educating her family, she took to educating the peasants. And she was quite the philanthropist of knowledge, which was the only thing that remained of her when she lost both her youth and her money. Both Iago and Undine said nothing to each other for a few minutes, and each person was lost in their thoughts, and Iago was thinking of his grandmother, and Undine was thinking of returning to Veragero. and Berthame's letters were bordering on desperate, and indeed he was growing impatient with her prolonged vacation. Undine was the first to break the silence. "I am going home soon. King Berthame is starting to miss me." "Miss you," and that's a bit of an understatement. "Who sends letters reading with blood red ink? And one need not read his letters to know its contents, and never before have I seen such a furious cursive script," commented Iago. "That isn't ink, you know," said Undine, looking at the flame. And Iago bit his lower lip and said nothing. He said, like, "That's not ink, that's red. He wrote that in blood." Not his blood, someone else's blood. A soft knock helped put an end to the tasteless conversation, and Eleanor entered the room wearing an immaculate white dress, and the dress had long frilly sleeves, and the skirt too had long laces. And her blonde hair was cut short and combed to enhance her natural curls, and needless to say the transformation was almost complete. And she stood before the open door with her hands on her back, and her green eyes stared shyly at the floor. Eleanor was anything but shy, however Undine had conditioned her to feign shyness to discourage interaction with normal people. Eleanor waited a moment and then said in a soft voice, "Uncle, teacher, please forgive my rudeness, and Mama wanted to tell you that dinner's ready." Iago closed his book and he said to the girl, "Thank you, Eleanor. Now go fetch Ahi. He should be in his broom closet." Eleanor nodded in response, and she rose up the stairs and went to one of the guest rooms, and since no one was watching her, Eleanor allowed herself to run after Ahi. And much to her annoyance, she heard Undine's rebuke from downstairs. "Ladies only run away from bad men, Eleanor, and there better be a mugger upstairs for you to be running." Eleanor went back to walking for a few steps, and then she looked left and right before taking off her shoes to continue running towards Ahi's room. And without bothering to knock, Eleanor opened the door unceremoniously, and she found Ahi reclining against the wall. And he had his look lower and his head down, and his legs was crossed over his right, and he had his hands folded. And she found when she found him with his head against the wall, and it was impossible to make him move whenever he was like that. And still, she ventured to try to wake Ahi whenever she had a chance, and so far she had tried to tickle, poke him with a stick, and even kick him in the balls, and this time she had a new idea. And she remembered a few days ago Undine kissed Iago, and Iago had been sleeping on the couch, and when Undine had lightly kissed him on the lips, he had awoke. And Undine had taught Eleanor all sorts of kisses in preparation for her wedding night, and as was the custom of the time, Undine did not teach Eleanor of the birds and the bees. Anyhow, Eleanor stood before Ahi, and she lowered his rude, and as usual, the strange, happy grin in his wide, unblinking eyes frightened her. And he seemed to be seeing something she could not, and Eleanor held his head in both her hands in imitation of Undine, and she drew closer and closer, and she had never been so close to Ahi before, and her hands got tangled in his long red curls, and she brought them closer to her nose and smelled them, and on the surface Ahi smelled of ginseng, caramel, lilac, grass, and a bit like orange, and mixing with all of the pleasant smell was the almost imperceptible smell of metal and blood. He used to wash his hair with aromatic waters acquired in the hollow creations. Fortunately for Ahi, a human nose was not as keen enough to pick up the scent of blood. Still, Ahi did smell of it, and despite all his effort, he could never get rid of that stench. At most, he could only mask it. And as we said, Eleanor smelled Ahi's hair and found its aroma intoxicating, and she then went to smell his robe, his breast, and his neck, and cast a smile when he saw this, and Eleanor too saw the faint smile, and this made her flinch, and indeed her behavior was the most unbecoming of a lady. And upon closer inspection, she noticed that Ahi had not changed his position. Still, the new smile painted in his lips shook her entire resolution. It almost felt as if Ahi's unblinking eyes were watching her. And she placed his hood over Ahi's head, and she said with a faint whimper, "Dinner's ready." Castor smiled at her and said, "I will be right down in a few minutes, honey." Eleanor turned pale white when she heard Ahi speak normally, and for some reason whenever he spoke as though she was terribly frightened. And turning around, Eleanor left the room, and closing the door behind her, she whispered below her breath as tears rolled down her cheeks, "Castor, so scary." And Eleanor then ran downstairs, forgetting her shoes in Ahi's room, and the second she arrived at the dining room, she was greeted by Undine's grimace. And it was then Eleanor realized she had forgotten her shoes, and forgetting her manners, she half yelled, "Teacher, sorry, embarrassed, Castor, scared, I just can't." And at other times Undine would have rebuked the girl. However, Undine was interested in hearing more about Castor. And Iago seemed to wonder who was this Castor, and Undine rose from her chair and hugged the child, and then she said suddenly, "Calm down, child, and tell me everything. Who is this Castor?" And Eleanor was about to answer when a voice inside of her said, "Castor home. He sleeps, cares not, does not. Castor harmless, like a statue. Castor slave as his master." And coming herself, Eleanor said, "Oh, nobody, teacher, just a servant, and he's the master, Castor the slave." The moment she said that, he entered the room holding Eleanor's shoes in his hands, and Undine returned to her seat to watch as he put Eleanor's shoes on, and the dinner went on solemnly as a funeral procession. And no one seemed to inquire about his so-called slave, and Undine was too spaced out to scold Eleanor for eating with her hands. And while eating a fruity dessert, Undine said to Eleanor, "Eleanor, have you seen money before?" "Yeah, you use it to buy things, and the more you have, the happier you get. And even a lady like me understands money," responded Eleanor, remembering her lessons. And her entire speech was a series of memorized lines combined with a bit of improvisation. "I see that you remember your lines." Undine added, sipping her tea. "Speak openly, Eleanor." "Numbers need more practice," said Eleanor, fiddling with the napkin rested on her knees. And the conversation about math and numbers went on for a bit, and he got bored of listening to them. And he left Iago study, and he picked up 2 quills and ink and a notebook. And he started copying a math book he had seen in his father's study, and the information of this book was stored inside his mind. Was stored in the ultimate weapon. The ultimate weapon was a computer system we all share, and we say we will refer to people from our home planet. And this weapon system solved complex problems for us and had a backup of all of the vision and sound data of all of the residents of our home. And while he wrote, Undine spent her time teaching Eleanor the basics of finger counting and the value of each coin in relation to each other. And around midnight, he entered the dining room with his book, and he placed it on Undine's lap, and he smiled. And Undine opened the book and gave a sardonic smile, and she said sarcastically, "How nice, you wrote me a math book. Now let me see, I got the plus and the ones and the sigma. Now this weird little round character, what does it stand for?" He said it before smiling. And Undine closed the book and continued her lessons without giving it a second glance, and indeed she had recognized the characters written in his rows inside the book. And after giving the book a quick glance, she concluded that his writing was just incomprehensible gibberish. And he could have written the most brilliant of math books, but without the ultimate weapon to interpret the characters by tapping into his memories, the book was pretty much useless. And he was not aware of this fact, seeing as though he assumed that everyone was like him, and his mother had raised him to treat others as his equals. And you know the usual mumbo-jumbo of not targeting for termination based on race, power levels, looks, etc. And Lady Godiva taught this lesson to her children so they would not grow up to be jerks. And needless to say, he did not get the whole concept, the whole equality thing. For him, it translated to him imagining that all were as powerful as his kin, and even if the ultimate weapon told him otherwise, and that he wasn't learn to see the truth with his own very eyes. Alright, that's the end of that chapter. Bye bye and God bless.